From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, this is Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Riley Smith. In today's show, Mark wraps up his conversation with Grant Harms of Corteva Agriscience. I have a featured conversation with the Landus Cooperative technical agronomist Dan Bjorklund, and Dustin finishes his chat on Xarvio digital farming solutions with Kyle King of BASF. Now let's welcome in our hosts, Mark Magnuson and Dustin Huffman.
Another rainy day here in central Iowa. And Dustin, I know we are counting ourselves very lucky in that regard because our neighbors to the west in the western portion of the state have been struggling a little more with receiving some of that moisture, although hopefully some of these rainfall showers are headed their way as well. And Dustin, as you think about the time of year, we've talked about it here recently that this is an important time of year to get that rain because of those important processes taking place in our corn and our soybean plants. And in fact, we've gotten some more clarification on some of those yield estimates, some of those yield estimations that are being made by the various private industry analysts. And I know that StoneX recently put out its yield estimate for the upcoming end of the growing season. That's going to be something I want to talk with Jim McCormick of agmarket.net about and how that's affecting the ag marketplace here, as this is really that time of year where we start to zoom in on that and focus on that.
Yeah, it's going to be, those estimates are going to start coming out more and more as we'll be waiting for the first USDA estimate to come out here while we're at the state fair. And right around the same time we get the WASDE report, we get that first acreage estimate. And of course, the markets watch that. That's one of the big four market moving times of the year. We talk about the end of June report and the quarterly grain stocks. We talk about the planting intentions report in March, and then usually that first estimate of production estimates. And then, of course, the January end of the year wrap up is usually one of the big four that we always deal with. And so there'll be a lot of eyes on that. That can be a big market mover, especially if they come up with a number that is astronomically one side or other away from the estimates. And of course, estimates will also be very varied during this time. But, the USDA can sometimes really throw you for a loop, and that can make the market skyrocket. It can make them plummet, and it never seems to be where it's really too close to what estimates are. And so that's what I'm more waiting on is what are the estimates going to be? What are the estimate guesses going to be? And then what is USDA going to say? Because we've made jokes about this many times, but this is where farmers really start to get a little concerned because the joke has always been, what number did the USDA find on the dartboard when they threw the darts? Well, this is the one where farmers really start to question where did they find these numbers? And that's the one where you see more aggressiveness towards the NASS office with some of their estimates. And that's where I remember being on the crop tour back in 2019, the Midwest crop tour, and they had farmers that were so mad with the numbers that came out that they were threatening the NASS officials that were on the tour with us in Nebraska, and they had to pull them out of the tour. And federal, the second morning we're getting ready at the hotel, and you see a line of SUVs because they're pulling all the NASS officials out because threats were made against them. Now, obviously, we don't want to go that far here, obviously, but this is where the USDA gets questioned quite a bit, and sometimes with a grumpy attitude.
Yeah, it is. I understand the frustration to a point. Obviously, you don't want to take it too far by any means, but I understand the frustration of you see a number that is put out by USDA that just doesn't line up necessarily with reality. So it makes for a frustrating experience and expectations each and every year going into this when you're trying to see how things line up and how that's going to affect that price that you can get for your grain.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. And of course, like I said, obviously, definitely don't want to see that happen, any threats like that. But this is where you can see farmers get their absolute angriest is when these numbers come out in the middle of August. So we'll have to wait and see. But we're going to get some talk right now. Jim McCormick of agmarket.net talking with Mark about the grains.
Joined today by Jim McCormick of agmarket.net. Jim, what's happening with the trade in the grains?
Hey, good morning. We're seeing a little bit of a mixed bag today. We have the corn and bean market under a little bit of pressure today, while we are seeing a little bit of strength in the wheat market. The stock market that ripped higher yesterday, that march higher is continuing again today. So kind of a good day for the equity market. Grains, a little bit under pressure, like I said, for the corn and beans.
So, Jim, how do you kind of square away what's happening with the ag marketplace when you have that movement in the overall markets and then also with the crude oil price?
Well, I think when you look at what's going on with the ag specifically, when you look at the crude oil in general has been breaking. We got spot crude trading around $75 a barrel. The optimism is the crude oil will start flowing out of Strait of Hormuz. That could also start allowing the opening of getting more fertilizer out of that part of the country. So, you take some of the fertilizer headlines back down a little bit, and then the crude oil. The fact of the matter is, we use a lot of corn for ethanol. We use a lot of beans for biodiesel. So, the ags are kind of a component of energy. So when energy goes up, you get the coattails up. When the energy complex goes down, the grain market gets pulled down. On top of that, the corn and bean market is under pressure due to the forecast. In general, it's not perfect, but there's a lot of rain in the forecast the next couple of weeks, no severe heat. So the idea is, especially for the beans, is this August rains could help develop this bean crop in the ever pod setting phase. And even the corn, a bulk of this corn obviously is through the pollination phase as we move into August, but it will help the grain fill. So that is putting a little bit of pressure on it. And then on top of that, Mark, we do have the August WASDE report. And one of the big surveys last year was StoneX. They had a pretty hot hand in calling the size of the crop. They released their first survey of the year yesterday, put the national corn yield at 184.8, a little bit bigger than the USDA's estimate, put the national bean yield at 53, right on the USDA's current bean estimate. That's adding to a little bit of the negative tone as well, given the market participants may be bracing for the potential, maybe a steady to higher yield when they release their number, or when the government releases its number, next Wednesday.
And then on top of that, Jim, here at least in the state of Iowa, we have not had as much disease pressure to this point of the growing season as we did last year. Is that the case, do you think, for much of the Corn Belt?
Definitely. It definitely is. I mean, there are having certain areas which are obviously having problems, but as a net compared to a year ago, it's night and day. Interesting enough, the StoneX survey put Iowa's national yield at 218. I'll let your listeners in Iowa debate if that's going to be legit or not. But they put their survey put the bean yield for Iowa at 218. The corn yield for Iowa at 218. Put the bean yield at 64 bushels an acre.
Get in the fair spirit at the Iowa State Fair and save before you go. The countdown is on to the Iowa State Fair, and now's the time to plan ahead. With advance admission tickets, lock in your visit before you arrive and step into 11 days of live music, fair traditions, incredible food, and summer moments you look forward to all year long. Save $5 now. Advance tickets are available now at iowastatefair.org, on the app, and at participating Iowa Hy-Vee and Fairway stores. Celebrate fair spirit at the Iowa State Fair.
August 13th through the 23rd.
Well, we started a conversation yesterday with Mark Magnuson talking with Grant Harms of Corteva as they were at the field day last week in Johnston. We're going to get the wrap up on that and talk about where farmers are making some of their financial decisions according to their inputs.
Mark Magnuson for the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and I'm joined today by Grant Harms. We are here at the Corteva and Pioneer Field Day. Grant, could you tell me, please, your job role here at Corteva?
Yeah, current role with Corteva Agriscience is technical field agronomist. I cover North and South Dakota, work with a lot of our reps selling our products to ag retailers in the region.
So Grant, when we're thinking about other issues that we're dealing with this growing season, is there anything specifically that sticks out to you as something that has been a hotspot issue?
Well, I'm in North Dakota, South Dakota, so resistance, Minnesota, they're starting to have resistance with pyrethroid insecticides. So as we start to scout for aphids, we found some aphids here today in Johnston, Iowa. Not economic threshold or not sprayable thresholds yet, but I'd say as you're scouting for aphids, look back on history and, what did history tell us with pyrethroids last year? Did it work? Did it not work? Are you in an area where you need to change up your chemistries? If you're looking to change up aphid control chemistries, we really like Isoclass Active. It's found in Transform and Ridgeback from Corteva Agriscience. 21 days of residual, really, pollinator friendly, beneficials friendly, really focusing in on that aphid control and the residual we needed to control those bugs.
And with those insects, do I have it correct that they are similar to some of the weeds and disease that we see in terms of the environmental conditions can affect what insects we're dealing with year to year? Isn't that the case?
Yeah, a couple of the calls I've had recently or sprays going out within the last 7 days have actually been for spider mites. So, while we're talking aphids that may come, with August rains or with August cooler temperatures, Right now, I'd say spider mites in some of these drought-stressed areas or low rainfall areas are kind of the talk. So you might have some hot spots, you might be bordering some fields, but currently, I'd say Japanese beetles, spider mites are the talk.
Grant, is there anything else you'd like to let our Iowa viewers, our Iowa listeners know about when it comes to anything that you think is an important message to get across to them, or just anything that you're excited about with Corteva right now?
I'd say, we appreciate your business. We appreciate, the support over the years. Corteva Agriscience, we're always going to be a company that wants to bring new, novel technology to the marketplace. A lot of these technologies have been around for 20, 30 years. Nature always finds a way to overcome some of these technologies, and we want to be one step ahead of those resistant types of situations. And then water quality, protecting Iowa water quality with below ground stabilizers like Instinct and Nserve. We can really keep that ammonium molecule in the ammonium form where the plant can utilize it and not lose it to volatile or a denitrification or leaching. So we're really proud of the Nserve and Instinct products, and we think it could help solve some of the situations that we're dealing with today with water quality.
He is Grant Harms with Corteva Agriscience. Grant, thanks so much for the time here today. Really appreciate it. Have a great rest of your week.
You too. Thank you.
ACM and CMA award winner, Hardy.
That's my favorite country song.
Live in concert.
I woke up on the wrong side of the truck bed this morning.
August 13th, 8 p.m., Iowa State Fair Grandstand.
You got it good, old boy.
With special guest McCoy Moore. Hardy Live. Reserve tickets on sale now through iowastatefair.org. Hardy 2026.
Time to run down those basis bids for you here on Iowa Ag Matters on this Wednesday. I'm Dustin Huffman. Taking a look at cash bids around the state, a handful of elevators improving their soybean bids today, with the exception of one that lowered its bids, but let's run them down. ADM Burlington 18 cents under on corn, 4.18. Soybeans 30 cents under, 11.38. Cargill and Eddyville 15 cents under on corn, cash bid 4.21. New Co-op Algona 30 cents under on corn, 4.06. Soybeans 25 cents under, cash bid 11.43. Ag State Sheldon 19 cents under on corn, 4.17. Soybeans 35 cents under, 11.33. Ag State Elta 26 cents under on corn, cash bid 4.10. Soybeans 30 cents under at 11.38. Cargill Cedar Rapids 7 cents under on corn, 4.29. Soybeans a nickel over, cash price 11.73. Five Star Co-op Nashua 30 cents under on corn, 4.06. Soybeans 40 cents under, they're at 11.28. Lincoln Way Energy Nevada 20 cents under on corn, cash bid 4.16. ADM Des Moines, they're a nickel over on soybeans, their cash bid is at 11.73. New Co-op Red Oak, they're 20 cents under on corn, 4.16. Soybeans 17 cents under, 11.51. Mid-Iowa Cooperative Green Mountain 42 cents under on corn, 3.94 for the cash bid. Soybeans 50 cents under, 11.18. New Co-op Sheraton 24 cents under on corn, 4.12. Soybeans 25 cents under at 11.43. Walk-On Feed Ranch, 48 cents under on corn, 3.88 for the cash price. Soybeans 67 cents under at 11.01. New Co-op Glidden, 29 cents under on corn, cash bid 4.07. Soybeans 25 cents under, 11.43. Innovative Ag Farley, 42 cents under on corn. They're at 3.94. Soybeans are 69 cents under with a cash price of 10.99. And finally at Cargill Muscatine, they're 23 cents under on corn, 4.13. Soybeans 30 cents under at 11.38. Cash corn and soybean bids are subject to change without notice. Always check with your local elevator or making sales to obtain the most recent price. That's been a check of your basis prices here on Iowa Ag Matters. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this.
Rod Stewart.
When I see you tonight,
A special evening with the icon.
on a downtown train,
A night of hit after hit after hit with special guest Richard Marks. Friday, August 14th, Iowa State Fair Grandstand. Reserve tickets on sale now through iowastatefair.org. Don't miss an electrifying event. Friday, August 14th. Rod Stewart, live.
It is time now here on Iowa Ag Matters for Riley Smith's conversation, our featured conversation with Dan Bjorklund of Landus Cooperative and the latest agronomy update.
Riley Smith, Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and I'm here right now with Dan Bjorklund, technical agronomist with Landus Cooperative for our biweekly agronomy update. And Dan, it's been a little bit rainy actually to start off this August. What have you been seeing for the crop conditions across the state?
Well, it's really good to be with you again, Riley. It hasn't changed much. This pattern that we've been in seems like the whole month of July and now heading into August is you've got east of 35, which they've been receiving plentiful rain. You've had rain maybe along the 35 corridor, and in some cases, in that Ames-Slater area up towards Ankeny, we know we've had somewhat too much rain at times. And then you get the western third of Iowa, and they're just begging for rain. And even with this latest rain that has come through the last 2 days, I think you get like 2 to 3, 4/10 maybe over in the west, and you get 1 to 2 to 3 inches like we were talking about to the east. So the state's almost divided, and that basically changes what we are looking at for crop conditions and potential pests that could be hurting crop conditions.
And a live update from my grandparents in Audubon, 1.5 inches this morning. So hopefully a little bit of relief heading that way through western Iowa. But yeah, like you said, it's been very dry over there so far. With that dryness, you mentioned the crop conditions still kind of maintaining status quo, but could we at a certain point, especially here in this August, start to see things maybe turn a little bit sour?
August is really critical when you look at soybeans. Huge time to fill those seeds, and the size of the seed is really important. So August rains are always critical for beans, and it is for corn too, because we want heavy weight and as much as we can possibly get. And we know what happened last year when we had the big disease that shall not be named, Riley, that took a lot of yield out in August. And we had ears that just didn't fill normally. So yeah, August is important, getting that timely rain, and then not having 95 to 100 degree temperatures, which it seems like it's been more west of us in Nebraska and in the Dakotas. We've had a few days like that, but fortunately, you're right. Even in the West, the fields still look, fairly good. They're holding in there, but I think a couple inches of rain would be just really helpful for the West in the next 2 weeks.
Now, Dan, last time we talked, about a handful of counties had that disease, southern rust, and we knew that it would spread eventually. How many counties are we up to now, and what is that disease pressure looking like, specifically from the rust side of things? Because like you mentioned last year, it took over fast and it hit hard.
There's around 22 counties, and mostly right along the 35, counties, 35, Boone and Polk, and along that line all the way east. That's where most of the rust has been. I've been in several fields. I did find rust over by Jefferson last Friday, so it was a little bit west of there. Found some in Calhoun County just 2 days ago. What I'm seeing is lighter levels than they were last year, especially in the West. In the East, you can find it a little bit more easily, but it just does not seem to have progressed as the disease that was in 2025. There is tar spot. There are even more counties of tar spot. It all comes down to conditions. Tar spot likes it cooler and wetter, which we haven't been really cool. Rust likes it hot and wet. I think the thing about the southern rust, Riley, is it all depends upon when those spores come up from the south. And I think they were earlier last year than they were this year. That does not mean that because it's August 5th, we forget about scouting our corn and soybeans for disease, because a lot of corn, especially in the eastern part of the state, was planted later. It was planted the first week or two in May because they couldn't get in April, which means that it's farther behind, and we need the whole month of August with this corn staying healthy to fill correctly.
This year at the Iowa State Fair, Fair Spirit meets 250 years of American history in a celebration across the fair. See the America 250 Iowa display and a permanent sculpture created just for the fair. Walk the Iowa Veterans Memorial Walkway honoring service and sacrifice. Experience 250 years of the American flag, along with red, white, and blue contests and fair favorites. Then look to the sky for drone shows glowing in red, white, and blue, lighting up the fair like never before. From history to celebration, it all comes together at the Iowa State Fair. Learn more at iowastatefair.org.
August 13th through the 23rd.
Well, Dustin, the rubber is meeting the road in terms of the Farm Bill, and on Thursday, the Senate Agriculture Committee will mark up its version of the Farm Bill. That is August 6th. Both Republicans and Democrats will be able to offer amendments during the markup session in D.C. Committee Chair John Bozeman, no surprise, he says now is the time to get this done.
Yeah, that he did. He said, no, we've got to get it done now, or we may be in jeopardy of not getting it done. Of course, they will be leaving town for the 5-week August recess, coming back after Labor Day at the end of this week. And then they're back for a few weeks. They've got a budget to get done as well. And then you have the October campaigning recess. And so you're going to see at least a third of the Senate gone to do that. And so you are going to be running into some really, time's running out. And then you come back then from the October recess and you have the lame duck session of Congress. Quite possibly we could be looking at new leadership at the beginning of the year. And so how much gets done, how much gets stonewalled, I mean, that can be a whole situation too. And we don't know what the climate in Washington will be if there is a change in leadership in the Congress. And so it's going to be, again, it's a now or never proposition, because hopefully they could still squeak it in then before we get to the elections and get this done before we could really be hamstrung. More Iowa Ag Matters coming up in a moment.
Your local radio station brings you the local news you depend on. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network complements that with ag news, weather, and market updates tailored for Iowa's farmers. Together, we deliver the best of both worlds, local connection and industry expertise. It's all to keep you connected with the heartbeat of the heartland. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, connecting rural Iowa with the news that matters to you.
This is the Midday Market Update on Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Mark Magnuson, joined today by Connor Bridgman of agmarket.net for the Midday Market discussion. Connor, we started the day off with quite a bit of red on the grain side on our market screens. Has that continued through midday?
It has. So far, we are holding, in my opinion, today's a little bit technical. We really need to hold some important levels in corn and soybeans. I'm looking at November soybeans. If we could hold 1170 and hold that till we see what the USDA gives us next week, that's a good one. And then D's corn right around 460. We're trading right there right now, but it would be nice to close above those.
Connor, we're starting to see some of those yield estimates from the various private entities. Is that something that does actually factor into the ag marketplace?
Yeah, I think so, especially with some of them last year. They put out a very big number. Turns out they were pretty close. I think people are paying a little bit more attention. Always when you get those yield estimates, there's going to be some debate, but in general, I think most estimates I've seen are, they're north of 181 up to 184, maybe even 185. They're in that range. I haven't seen anything too much lower. And so, yes, I think the trade's paying attention to it. These funds have their own estimates that are probably right in that range. So I think it's a big factor this time of year.
What's the story on the livestock side of the trade here at midday?
Yeah, looking at cattle, we continue to have another after that bloodbath of a July, we continue to have a positive day, a little bit live and feeders. We're kind of doing what they should, but we're bouncing off some lows and making some run at some moving averages. So again, another positive day and exactly what you want to see in the cattle market. Hogs, on the other hand, we kind of are sliding back down to some of the lows we put in the month of July. Hopefully we can find a bottom and make another run up in that hog market.
Connor Bridgman, agmarket.net. What's the best way for our listeners to get in touch for more marketing information?
It's in our name, agmarket.net. You can find all our information and all our brokers there. I'd encourage you to go to the website. We are going to be at Becknology Days. We'll have a booth. Odds are there's going to be one in the next couple of weeks near your area, so make sure to stop by and say hi if we're there.
Thanks so much for the time. Appreciate it, and have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
No one knows your fields better than you, but it's hard to be everywhere at once. Sky Scout from Landus Cooperative helps you keep an eye on every acre throughout the growing season. Using aerial imagery and expert analysis, Sky Scout can help identify crop stress, stand concerns, nutrient issues, and other potential challenges before they become bigger problems. The result? More informed decisions and greater confidence in every pass across the field. Because the earlier you know, the more options you have. Talk with your Landus representative or call 515-817-2100 to learn more about Sky Scout today.
September corn down 5.5 at 436 3/4. September soybeans down 6 1/4 at 1152.5. September soybean meal down 240 at 310.30. September soybean oil down 54 cents at 67.66. Chicago wheat up 6 3/4 at 645 1/4. Minneapolis wheat is up 6 cents at 690. Kansas City hard red wheat up 11 cents at 718. On the Merc, August live cattle up 230 at 234.25. August feeder cattle up 293 at 354.13. August lean hogs down 93 cents at 96.93. That was a check of the midday markets on Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Mark Magnuson.
Well, back into the marketplace we go here on a Wednesday as we're going to look at the livestock prices. Of course, the cattle market seeing a little bit more upward momentum. Hogs under a little bit of pressure here. Jim McCormick of agmarket.net going through it with Mark Magnuson to talk about what is moving those markets here this week.
What's happening on the livestock side of the trade?
On the livestock, it's kind of interesting. You're seeing a little bit of consolidation after last week's run-up right here on the cattle market, up about 40 cents today. Feeder cattle's kind of consolidating. The hogs consolidating after a hard break. A little bit of divergence in the overall psychology of the beef demand. Stock market, as I mentioned, racing to all-time highs. That's got the high-end beef guys optimistic. Strong economy based on the stock market. That's going to be good for beef. The problem you got is McDonald's earnings came out. McDonald's said their earnings weren't as good, and they attributed it to the lower income participants of the economy just not having the money even to go to McDonald's and buy hamburgers at McDonald's. And that is kind of a negative sign, I think, because some of our, participants or some of our, fellow USA, Americans are struggling economically and moving away from those higher beef cuts.
On top of that, Jim, do you think that means that there's a little bit of a turning away for Americans in terms of just going out to eat in general?
You're seeing a little bit of dichotomy of it. I think you're seeing for some you are, then other people, like I said, if you have equity, housing market's held in there for the most part. Stock market assets, you're feeling pretty good about it. The problem is there's a lot of Americans, unfortunately, do not own stocks, so they're really not able to participate in this stock market running up, and they're definitely feeling it with these high food prices.
What's happening with the hogs right now?
The hog market, they broke hard here going into the last couple days of July. They've been consolidating a little bit of unwinding that hog cattle spread, I think, is part of it. The other thing the hog market's finding maybe a little bit of support after this correction is if you cannot afford the high beef price, you tend to ship down the protein sector to as they're a little bit less expensive to purchase, plain and simple.
What's the best way for our listeners to get in touch for more marketing information?
You can reach me directly at 815-665-0461 or go to agmarket.net to sign up for a free trial of our research.
Jim McCormick, agmarket.net. Thanks so much for the time. Appreciate it, and have a great day.
Thanks for having me on.
Hi, my name is Ethan Smith, and I've been a certified crop advisor in Iowa for about 6 years. The Iowa CCA program is valuable to me because it helps keep me informed on new topics and research around the industry, including soils, insects, diseases, and much more. It's also a great way to network with others around the state and beyond. Iowa is known for its crops, and that's why we're here. To learn more about becoming a certified crop advisor, visit iowacca.org.
In rural Iowa, we know you're sold on your local radio station. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network partners with local Iowa stations to deliver the latest in agriculture news, including grain elevator prices, market reports, and ag policy news. Trusted local voices, trusted ag content. This message is brought to you by your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters.
This is Iowa Ag Matters on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and it is time for Dustin to wrap up his conversation on Xarvio and digital ag solutions. Here's Dustin with more.
And another question that I have is, obviously you kind of reference the weather reports, or we talk about what crop disease reports are looking like, and this tool can help you then use that information. But obviously, the tool is going to need to know also what the farmer has in their situation. So, what kind of information does a farmer need to input to make this tool work?
Yeah, pretty basic cropping information. What was planted there, what hybrid variety, what was the planting date, because we also have growth stage models, right? And so obviously as you're planning really from emergence all the way through, reproductive stages, is what are the key growth stages that are going on in that plant. So in order to do that, which also then lean into our disease models and spray timer, is we need to know what did you plant, when did you plant it, so that way we can, adequately start to model out where that plant is in growth stage, what risk is there, and then, obviously it feeds right into the model of what that local field level environment looks like, and, how that plant risk is being modeled out.
And they say necessity is the mother of invention, and obviously this ag economy has made us look at ways to be more predictive, to be better with our investments, to get that better ROI when profit margins are razor thin. Could this be, a paradigm shift you see, even if the ag economy starts to recover and get better, where farmers are still going to use this technology to maximize every dollar they get out, even if the economy swings back and gets a little easier?
Yeah, you're exactly right. And what we actually see with users is there's really a couple kind of schools of thought when it comes to decision making. We have decision making going on in real time as to, do I need to spray or not spray, certain fields. And, Xarvio Field Manager and our agronomic models, disease models, are coming right alongside that agronomist, and helping them prioritize, fields that they need to take action with, and also deprioritize fields that, we're completely safe. And so as of right now, but the models are going to continue to run, but it really changes the conversation of, hey, we don't need to spray every field. We need to spray these, let's just arbitrarily say 5 fields, and, these other 10 fields are okay for right now. We're going to continue to monitor, but, we'll be back, should, something elevate and that we need to make a decision on, then we'll be back. But what we also notice is there's still some decisions being made where it's like, hey, I'm still going to spray every field. I still believe in the crop health, the plant health characteristics of it. In those situations, they're really utilizing that spray timer to make sure that, hey, I'm going to spray, but I'm really utilizing that spray timer to be like, when do I need to be at what field at what time? And so, that's a huge value that we've seen, farmers and retailers use, who are still spraying every acre with the fungicide, but it's really around, when do I need to be there to optimize my ROI? So how do I mitigate as much stress as possible? And we're using these models to help get them to the right field at the right time.
All right, so if folks want to learn more about the Xarvio Field Manager from BASF, what's the best way for them to start doing some of their own research?
Yeah, if they have questions, first and foremost, they can reach out to the local BASF rep. They can answer questions, and they can also get in contact with us. Otherwise, you can go to our website at www.xarvio.com, and Xarvio is spelled XARVIO.com. There's lots of information there where you can do your own research, or there's a contact us where you can reach out to our support team or email our support team, and they'll get you in contact with the right person, and we can answer any questions you have and start the discussion.
That's Kyle King of BASF. Kyle, we thank you so much for taking the time to tell us about Xarvio and some of the new technologies available from BASF. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Dustin.
Burwell Livestock Market, Burwell, Nebraska. Friday, August 7th will be our annual Customer Appreciation Barbecue Auction. We start at 11 a.m. on a regular auction, expecting 3,000 head of quality Sandhills cattle. We'll sell in fall calves, fall bred cows, and feeders. That's at the Burwell Livestock Market in Burwell, Nebraska, Friday, August 7th, annual Customer Appreciation Barbecue Auction. You can view our complete listings at burwelllivestock.com or give us a call here at the auction market, 308-346-4257.
Rod Stewart.
Will I see you tonight?
A special evening with the icon.
On a downtown
A night of hit after hit after hit with special guest Richard Marks. Friday, August 14th, Iowa State Fair Grandstand. Reserve tickets on sale now through iowastatefair.org. Don't miss an electrifying event. Friday, August 14th. Rod Stewart live.
Well, just like that, we are coming up on the end of our program here for today. Of course, next week, well, we'll be at the Iowa State Fair starting next Thursday, the 13th. Looking forward to seeing everybody out there. Of course, you can find us right next to where the Super Bowl will be at the Cattle Barns across the road from the newly renovated Horse Barns as well. Getting excited to see what everything's looking like out there and, of course, visiting with all of you. So thanks to Riley, thanks to Mark, and, of course, thanks to you for listening. We'll see you tomorrow on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network.